The clock blinked 7:01 a.m. as Valerie Knox settled into her usual post at the Seattle 911 call center. 11 years on the job had taught her one thing: mornings that start quietly never stay that way for long. She barely finished her bitter coffee when the first call came through, a boy's panicked voice trembling on the line. "My mom's on the floor. She's not moving. I think she's dead," he whispered. "Stay calm, what's your name?" Valerie asked, heart tightening. "Caleb. I'm 9. She heard a baby crying in the background, then Caleb's voice breaking as he tried to follow her instructions. "She's snoring weird." That was agonal breathing, the final breath before death. She coached Caleb to roll his mother gently to her side and keep the baby safe. EMTs were dispatched. When the rescuers burst in, Caleb's screams pierced the silence. Click. The line went dead. Before she could breathe, another call lit up her console. A man, distraught and trembling, confessed he'd hit someone on Aurora Avenue. "I didn't see him, he's not moving, there's blood." Valerie's fingers flew over the keyboard as she instructed the driver to check for breathing without moving the victim. She called in medics and police, kept the man talking until sirens closed in. The man's sobs rattled the line, remorse and terror mixed in every word. No pause. The fire department next. Lana, a woman trapped on the second floor of an apartment fire, screamed for help. "My husband just had surgery. He can't walk. The smoke's thick, I can't carry both my baby and him." Valerie's voice was sharp but steady. She told Lana to stay low, cover her mouth with a wet cloth, and keep the baby wrapped tight. Fire crews were rerouted to her exact location, the priority rescue flag blinking bright on Valerie's screen. Lana's prayers floated over the line, raw and desperate. Valerie answered with the promise that she wasn't alone. Then came the police standoff. Officer Darren Reese called in from Capitol Hill, a domestic dispute gone violent. Shots fired. Hostage situation. Woman's bleeding. "I'm outnumbered." Valerie coordinated backup, staying on the line as Reese tried to keep the hostage-taker talking. Every second felt like a lifetime. "Backup's 3 minutes out," she said, watching the clock. Reese's calm breaths and careful words were the thread holding a fragile life on the line. 5 lines lit up red now, and the weight pressed heavy. The 6th call was a whisper, soft and breaking. "I have a gun. I'm on the Roosevelt Bridge." The man was at the edge, silent except for his despair. "I just want someone to listen before I jump," he said. Valerie's hands moved swiftly, pulling maps, pinging his location, alerting police. She stayed with him, voice gentle but firm, coaxing stories of his lost family, his son Daniel, memories long buried beneath the crushing weight of hopelessness. The police cruisers neared, lights flashing, footsteps pounding in the distance. Valerie begged him to hold on, to live. Then her shift lead appeared. "You need to tap out, Val. I can handle it." She couldn't. 5 critical calls already, with no pause. She gripped the headset tighter. A teenager screamed, "My dad collapsed. He's not breathing." Valerie stayed on the line, counting compressions with the boy, clear and loud, until EMTs arrived and revived the man. Her body screamed for a break, but the next call blinked red. 911, what's your emergency? A frightened girl whispered, "He's coming. He has a knife." The line cracked with static. No address. No name. Valerie triangulated the signal to an old warehouse district in Fremont. Somewhere in the shadows, a life was hanging by a thread, and she was the only lifeline. The morning had just begun, and Valerie Knox was already juggling the impossible, holding together lives, hopes, and the raw edge of human desperation, one call at a time. The static crackled and faded, then returned, a fragile thread of sound slipping through the noise. Valerie Knox's breath hitched as the distant whisper came back, barely audible, "He's coming. He has a knife." The voice was young, trembling, a desperate plea lost in the harsh hum of the 911 center. Valerie leaned closer, her fingers flying over the keyboard, triangulating the signal from that warehouse in Fremont. The flickering dot on the map crawled forward, and she could almost feel the tension coiling inside that cold, dark building. Outside, the early morning sun was climbing higher, but inside the call center, time felt suspended in a relentless loop of urgency. Her screen was alive with emergencies, 5 simultaneous critical calls threading through her headset like a deadly game of Jenga. One wrong move, and the whole fragile balance would collapse. She shifted her focus to the fire dispatch channel. Flames were ravaging Lana's apartment at 23 East Jefferson. The fire crews reported worsening conditions, thick smoke and heat had trapped Truck 3 in a sudden flashover. Lana was still trapped on the second floor with her husband, a recent surgical patient who couldn't move. Her voice, ragged and frantic, still haunted Valerie's ears as she instructed Lana to stay low and keep her baby wrapped tight in a blanket. Valerie's mind raced as she coordinated with the fire command, diverting backup trucks, flagging a priority rescue. The smell of smoke seemed to seep through the speakers, visceral and choking. She imagined Lana's eyes darting through the darkness, the terror of helplessness gripping her tight. Suddenly, Officer Darren Reese's voice broke in, taut with tension. "He's got the woman pinned, knife at her neck." He's shouting, volatile. Backup still 5 minutes out. Valerie's fingers trembled slightly but stayed steady. "Keep him talking, Officer Reese. Ask about the hostage's name, her favorite song. Keep him distracted." Reese's voice was low, brittle. "He's pacing. I don't know how much longer I can hold him." Valerie toggled channels, pinging every available unit in the area, calling in SWAT negotiators, alerting paramedics standing by for the worst. Each update felt like a jarring note in an unbearable symphony of crisis. Her headset buzzed again, another call. The teenager on the other line was still desperately performing CPR on his father, guided by Valerie's voice. She counted every compression aloud, forcing the boy to focus amid the rising panic. Finally, paramedics burst into the home and took over. Valerie heard the faint but steady pulse come through the line, a lifeline snatched from the jaws of death. But there was no time to savor the victory. A man who had hit a pedestrian called back, his voice laden with guilt and trembling with shock. "I can't live with this. What if he dies?" Valerie softened, reminding him that help was already on scene. "You did what you could. Now focus on the next steps." Her heart pounded as she turned back to the Roosevelt Bridge. The man standing at the edge was wavering, lost in the fog of despair. Sirens screamed in the distance, and police cruisers closed in slowly. Valerie's voice was steady but gentle. "You're not alone. Stay with me. Let's find a reason to stay." An officer whispered in her ear, "Backup's less than 3 minutes out." She held her breath, counting down the seconds. The man's fingers loosened from the railing. Slowly, agonizingly, he stepped back. At that moment, the girl's voice flickered back on the Fremont line. "He left, he's gone." Relief crashed over Valerie like a tidal wave. Seconds later, officers swarmed the warehouse, apprehending the man who had threatened the girl with a knife. The hostage situation resolved, the fire extinguished, and every victim stabilized. It was the crescendo of hours spent in perpetual crisis. Yet, as Valerie slumped back in her chair, exhaustion crushing her muscles, she felt the weight of all she had carried. 11 years of lives held in her voice, breaths caught between hope and terror, and today, more than ever, she understood the silent burden of the job. She thought of Caleb, the scared little boy who saved his mother with trembling hands, the firefighter who braved a deadly blaze for Lana, Officer Reese staring down a knife-wielding man to save a life, and the stranger who stepped back from the edge of despair on the Roosevelt Bridge. Each call was a thread. And Valerie was the one weaving those threads into a fragile tapestry of survival. Outside, the world moved on oblivious. But inside the 911 center, Valerie Knox was already bracing for tomorrow's storm, ready to answer the next desperate call that would come over the line.